Okay, welcome back to the video. In the last part we were at Phobos and we had to locate the fuel modules and actually land on Phobos. Locating the modules is the easy part, but getting the darn vessel to actually settle down on the surface and stop is a major exercise in frustration. But nevertheless, after I don't even know how many minutes of wobbling around nonsensically, it finally settled down and stopped. It makes me feel like I want to throw an anchor out of the side of the vessel and just have it latch onto a meteor on the ground and just stop, for crying out loud. Anyway, we are finally here, so now we're going to set up our plan for getting to Saturn because we had to cancel that plan. So let me bring up Transx over here. And what are we doing? Okay, view over to setup. And we want to escape Mars. And then we want to go to Saturn. And this should be the right day, so we should already have the right time to do it. We just have to fine-tune a few things here. So let's add in the necessary amount of prograde. And let's bring Transx up on this side and view the encounter. Something like that. Now let's put in the plane change. About like that. Prograde. And I'm just going to go back and forth between these variables and get the minimum altitude over here down to a reasonable number. In fact, let me even do this. Let me start thinking ahead, because I'm not going to plan on getting into a tight orbit around Saturn. So let's just kind of find out now. Let me set that aside for a moment. Let me reference Saturn. And let me target Titan. That's going to be the planet we're going to go for, or the moon we're going to go for. And it orbits Saturn at... Actually, I guess I can't tell at this point. Alright, we'll figure it out later. Never mind on that part then. Okay, back to plane change. Or prograde, rather. getting in there. It's a bit of a process sometimes. Just a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about getting in there too far. That's going to be good enough. Okay, now we're saying that we're going to have an encounter dated Saturn of 58654. Let me bring up a calculator here and figure out how many days that is. So that's 58654 minus this number, which is 56585. So 2069 days. So we need to make sure we get enough locks for that long of a journey. Okay, now payload camera, and let's go back to here, grapple that locks.
Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay.
Let's see how much locks that gives us. That's 613 days.
Payload latched in bay.
$913 days. Uh-oh. Okay, I've still got locks there for a minute. I thought I didn't have enough locks on the ground.
Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay.
Okay, that's 1,814 days. We're close. Still need a couple hundred days worth.
Payload latched in bay.
That's 2,114. And we said we needed 2,069, so that's enough. But let's see. So we've got 2114, where we said we needed 2069, so we've got an extra 45 days. That's not a lot. Let me pick up one more, even though it's a lot of extra weight to carry, but 45 days, that's not a lot of margin of error, I don't think. Okay, grab one more locks.
Payload latched in bay.
Alright, let's see. That's 2414. That's definitely enough. That's over close to 400 days more than we need. Alright, now let's grab some fuel. See, we look outside. We still got a couple of LOX modules on the ground there. I might actually have to come back and work on this scenario and add another row of LOX, because if I wanted to go out to beyond Saturn, then wouldn't have enough LOX. So you can see here we're getting loaded up. So now, how much main fuel do we want to take? We honestly, I don't even think we really need that much, because we're already in orbit around Mars. So all we need is enough fuel for the I guess it'd be called the TSI burn, the Trans-Saturn Injection Burn. And we're saying we need 8,000 worth of delta V to do that burn for the prograde side of things. but we're also doing negative 3,000 worth of plane change, so yeah, I need to learn how to figure out how to calculate fuel, because I honestly don't know. Like, how do I take these numbers and figure out how many kilograms of fuel I need? Let me actually ask that question to the viewing audience, anybody that watches this video. If you know, I'd like to hear from you. So right now, when I'm getting ready to pick up fuel, I'd like to pick up enough fuel to be able to handle the burn and get out to Saturn and do everything I want to do, but not have so much extra fuel that I'm just being ridiculous with it. And since I don't know, I'm just going to have to pick up a lot of fuel. So let's just start grappling some fuel now. So that's a fuel tank.
Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay.
Okay, that's all the fuel that's on the ground. I assume I'm being really ridiculous with the amount of fuel I'm taking with me, but in the Jupiter video, obviously I came up short, so I tend to think that I'm going to need less fuel than I end up needing, but I'm also already off of Mars, so I'm not going to use as much fuel in this flight. Okay, let's close it up and get ready to go. Warp time ahead, get that to shut, there we go. Alrighty. Now, turn that off for a minute, get rid of some noise. Let me think about what I'm doing. I've never actually lifted up off of like Phobos and Deimos and gone off to another planet, so let me just think about what I gotta do. It really isn't that difficult because I'm basically in orbit around Mars and I'm just doing a maneuver. I think what I might actually want to do is lift up off of Phobos to get away, just put some distance between me and Phobos, and then plan on figuring out the maneuver from there. So let's see, we set the maneuver up, and that date's already passed, so we need to plan on doing this maneuver in the future. Okay. Alright, let me get away from Phobos first. That makes the most sense to me. Open the hover doors. Okay, we've got RCS mode to rotation. We don't need to worry about surface controls. Alright, let's apply a little bit of hover now.
Wheels up.
A little bit more.
Gear up. Gear up and locked.
Okay. Let's put in a little bit more hover. I think that'll be fine. Let's close the hover doors. Okay, now we are going to reset our date to right now, and we're going to bump it forward by 7 minutes. So instead of 8352, we're going to set it for just 8400. Should do the trick. There we go. That'll give me time to get in position for the maneuver.
Information. APU running.
See if there's any additional refinements I can do for the plane change. Looks pretty good right where it's at. Okay, so let's go to view. And I've done something wrong here. Yeah, this is a learning experience. Okay, so, yikes. Okay, my altitude is currently 9.581. .145. I'm really having to think right now because I've never done anything like this before. This is a pretty different experience, so I apologize for the lack of commentary, but I always set up these maneuvers, these types of ejections while I'm on the ground. So I'm trying to wrap my head around what I have to do differently since I'm already in orbit around Mars. Okay, that looks right. Because the relative inclination is 1.2, whereas before it was 180, so it was completely off. So if I'm understanding this correctly, then I need to come around to this point and do the ejection. Interesting indeed. Okay, so I need to correct this relative inclination difference. .42 space 85.6. I do not know if I'm doing this right or not. Wow. Yeah, I think I am. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go prograde. Turn off prograde. Bring the white line to my current location. Get a nice accurate reading here. And let's see if we can just bump the
Translation
thrusters a little bit for the relative inclination. That'll be up, down. Okay, that's basically got us in plane. It'll change it a little bit, but it'll be alright. I hope I'm doing this right. It's a little weird doing it this way. At least it's unfamiliar. Alright. Let's see if we can get going now. We're going to warp time ahead until we're at the ejection point. Let me check my encounter. It's okay. Alright, yeah, I think we're doing it right. Yeah. Okay. Control S to save it right here at this spot, because I'm a little obviously weirded out. Alright, warping time ahead now. And we'll check our relative inclination again when we get, well, I guess when we get to the descending node. Getting pretty close to the descending node. So now what we'll do is bump the white line around to our current position. It's right there. And again, prograde. And we'll bump the translation thrusters a little bit here. I really hope I got myself in a right position so I'm not going to try to send my vessel through Phobos. That would suck. Guess it's drifting away. Okay, we're almost getting around to the ejection point. Boy, look at that lineup. Yikes. Please get out of the way. Okay, we are just 10 minutes away from the time to do the burn. Okay. Okay, yeah, we're pretty much right in plane. You see how sensitive that is at the hyper setting? So there's really no adjustment that I can make that would make that any better. In fact, it would just get worse if I tried to adjust it from this point. Okay, now
Rotation.
go ahead and warp time ahead to time to do the burn. I feel like I'm getting lag at this point, so what I'm going to have to do after this, once the burn's done, I'm going to stop the video and then maybe reboot my computer or something, because for some reason after I record for a while, the computer just gets really laggy, and I'm sensing that at this point, even though it shows my frames per second is very high. But it'll be a good stopping point after the burn's done. Beginning the burn in about a minute. Okay, let's get the vessel in position. And right as we get up to the burn, we will turn off prograde. Okay, burning now. Alright, and we should see Phobos go by us here in a moment.
Translation. Rotation.
Okay, one fuel module's gone. Trying to figure out which way to rotate to bring that semi-major difference down. Oh, there we go. Just a little bit of inward. Take a look at the external camera for a moment. Goodbye Mars, goodbye Phobos. There goes the second fuel module. That's what that noise is. You can actually see it down here. It says alert, bay tank is empty. Okay, we have enough velocity to break away from Mars now. If I bring up orbit on this side, you can kind of see what's going on. There's another fuel module gone. But if you recall in the Mars to Jupiter video, we burned through several of these just getting up off of Mars. So that's why it was so inefficient to do that. Let me watch the semi-major difference. It's okay. And we still got 5,000 worth of delta V to go through. This is kind of an interesting view to watch too. I can't really bring this up on an external MFD. And there's Phobos. I was actually a little worried that I was going to end up running through it, but we're fine. We're well enough away from it. Still got a long way to go on the Delta V. I'm just kind of soaking up the experience here, since this is all brand new, so that's why I'm not warping time ahead. Let me rotate a little bit though. The semi-major difference needs to come down. And I can see my relative inclination climbing a little bit now. I'm not going to worry about it for a while, but once I get closer to the end of the burn, I can pitch a little bit as needed to make sure that doesn't climb, but it's actually really, really low, so it doesn't hardly matter. But you can see our greeny lips growing here, so we're going to be getting closer and closer to extending our orbit out so that it will get us all the way to Saturn. And we're doing Saturn in one go. We're not going to do a Jupiter sling in this video. I am going to do slings in some other videos, but not this time. I actually recorded the whole grand tour, taking off, from Earth and slinging all the planets. I have not yet decided if I'm going to upload that video or not. I'm not happy with it at all. It's awful. Okay, we've got about 3,700 on the Delta V. A lot of fuel to get out to Jupiter, or rather Saturn. And it's interesting to note, perhaps, that we've been gone from Mars now for 10 hours, almost 11 hours. So I gave us a 24-hour window to go over to Phobos, but it didn't take that long. It only took 5 hours to get to Phobos. So I guess maybe 12 hours would have been a better window. So we're leaving a little bit earlier than the first transX plan that I set up when I started this whole process. Ooh, semi-major difference. Wake up. Wake up, David. Wake up. And we incorporate a little bit of pitch. That's going the wrong way. Okay, you can see the relative inclination coming down. $2,200 of Delta V to go. Keeping an eye on the semi-major difference. It's coming down quickly enough, I don't really need to rotate anymore. I'm getting concerned about the fuel already. I did not expect to burn through this many fuel modules. semi-major difference. Relative inclination is basically perfect. Watching the semi-major difference, watching the delta V, finally getting close to the end of the burn. I'm going to rotate closer to the center position because that semi-major comes down quickly when you get down into the 0.00 range. Almost at the end of the burn. Backing off main engines.
Translation. Rotation.
Okay, let's rotate to the center.
Translation.
Let's translate the semi-major. That's as low as that's going to get. Last little bit of delta V. Okay, burn is... that is one of the most sexy burns I've ever accomplished. Got a semi-major difference that is so low we're getting the scientific notation and a relative inclination likewise. So we're in good shape. We've got a delta V down to 0.000 and a few decimal points. Alright, let's go ahead and do this then. This will be a good stopping point. So I'm going to Control S to save the scenario right here where we're at. And if you have any comments or questions about this part of the video, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I would especially like to hear from anybody that has some insight as to how I can plan ahead of time on those fuel modules, like when I'm setting up the burn and I can see that I've got this much delta V to burn through. How do I translate that into kilograms so I know how much fuel to pick up? If you know how to do that, I would appreciate it. Otherwise I'll just look it up on my own, maybe post a question on Orbiter forum. Somebody there will certainly answer, but if somebody watching the video knows, it'd be a good discussion point. So let me go ahead and stop this and I'll pick it up in the next part. Okay, now payload camera, and let's go back to here, grapple that locks.
Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay.
Let's see how much locks that gives us. That's 613 days.
Payload latched in bay.
913 days. Uh-oh. Okay, I've still got locks there for a minute. I thought I didn't have enough locks on the ground.
Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay. Payload latched in bay.
Okay, that's 1,814 days, so we're close. Still need a couple hundred days worth. Getting in there. It's a bit of a process sometimes. Just a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about getting in there too far. That's going to be good enough. Okay, now we're saying that we're going to have an encounter dated Saturn of 58654. Let me bring up a calculator here and figure out how many days that is. So that's 58654 minus this number, which is 56585. So 2,069 days. So we need to make sure we get enough locks for that long of a journey. Okay, welcome back to the video. In the last part, we were at Phobos, and we had to locate the fuel modules and actually land on Phobos. Locating the modules is the easy part, but getting the darn vessel to actually settle down on the surface and stop is a major exercise in frustration. But nevertheless, after I don't even know how many minutes of wobbling around nonsensically, it finally settled down and stopped. It makes me feel like I want to throw an anchor out of the side of the vessel and just have it latch onto a meteor on the ground and just stop, for crying out loud. Anyway, we are finally here, so now we're going to set up our plan for getting to Saturn, because we had to cancel that plan. So let me bring up Transx over here. And what are we doing? Okay, view over to setup. And we want to escape Mars. And then we want to go to Saturn. And this should be the right day, so we should... Actually, I guess I can't tell at this point. Alright, we'll figure it out later. Never mind on that part then. Okay, back to plane change. Or prograde, rather. should already have the right time to do it. We just have to fine-tune a few things here. So let's add in the necessary amount of prograde. And let's bring transx up on this side and view the encounter. So something like that. Now let's put in the plane change. About like that. Prograde. And I'm just going to go back and forth between these variables and get the minimum altitude over here down to a reasonable number. In fact, let me even do this. Let me start thinking ahead, because I'm not going to plan on getting into a tight orbit around Saturn. So let's just kind of find out now. Let me set that aside for a moment. Let me reference Saturn. And let me target Titan. That's going to be the planet we're going to go for, or the moon we're going to go for. And it orbits Saturn at